Warning, this episode contains mild to heavy explicit spoilers. Listen at your own risk.
Reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is the Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
What's up, everybody? It's the Horror Deconstruction. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, most likely on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon with your host, KOMP, and our guest host,
DECKARD.
There you go, DECKARD. Today we're going to be talking about a very specific film and a very specific genre of its own. I can't even imagine what this genre is called. It's a nightmare comedy, I assume, right? But what film are we talking about today?
We're talking about Sound of Freedom. I mean, BEAU is Afraid.
From IMDb, following the sudden death of his mother, a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man confronts his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic Kafkaesque odyssey back home, written and directed by Ari Aster, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Patti LuPone, and Amy Ryan, among other actors. So, BEAU is Afraid is by the director, obviously, Ari Aster. Can you tell us a little bit of history about your what your history was with Ari Aster's films, and what you think about him as a director?
My history with his films is probably the same as everyone else, to an extent. You know, the first movie I saw of his was Hereditary. And then from there, I think I went and discovered some of his short films after that. And then, of course, it was his next film, Midsommar, and which I saw with you in the theater.
Yes.
And then it's from, and had a, loved both films. I think Hereditary, I've watched it a few times. The first time I loved it, but I kind of was a little bit touch and go with it. I just, I didn't love it as much as most people did, but then after watching it a few more times, I'm like, you know what, he did horror really well, unique, scary. This movie is frightening in a lot of ways, both visually and also just story-wise and creepiness. It's one of the most creepiest movies I've ever seen. And then the same goes for Midsommar. It was it was pretty much the same way. I kind of prefer that film a little bit more, but I agree. I think I love them right now equally after doing a bunch of rewatches. And so that's pretty much, he's sort of become that director. He's very unique. He kind of sticks to the same sort of subjects in certain ways, probably other than this film, but he just has a very unique voice, visual style. You wouldn't think it by looking at him, but he's just visually, his movies are amazing, but then he has these very creative stories and characters, and so he's one of those directors that become you have to just watch what he's going to do next. You wait for his next film.
Right, exactly. And there's and it's a rarefied sort of presence of that kind of director, honestly. It's when you find them and you're like, oh my God, I got to see the next film. And the thing is, when you see Ari Aster outside, when not in the streets, when you see him outside of his directing his films and they interview him, he's very funny. He's very much quick-witted dude. And he's very smart, and he's total cinema guy, completely cinema dude. He's one of those people where he had an episode for Criterion Closet, and his episode's 30 minutes compared to a 7 or 15 minute episode. Right. But anyway, so when I first watched Hereditary, obviously I was taken in by that trailer. We reviewed the episodes Hereditary and Midsommar on this channel, so if you want to see the old episode, check that out. But I remember just seeing that first film, and I was just blown away. I knew something was special with it when the first shock in that film is when the mother character, I forgot why I'm forgetting her name, Toni Collette, that is, the actress. When she's fixing up stuff in one of the rooms of all the garbage in the house and all the stuff that was left of her mom, and she turns off the light and she looks off screen, and there's a very almost impossible to see woman who's standing in the darkness. Her mother's shadow figure. And I was in the theater going, I said, holy shit, out loud, because I was it's that kind of terror that I like with films. And you get to see a lot of that more with Asian horror films as opposed to American sort of jump scare
shit.
stuff, or the $30 million every film Insidious Part 5 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those, but remember, Insidious beats Indiana Jones all the time, so don't worry about that. You won't go away. But so when I saw that, I couldn't.
What do we know?
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, this is like incredible. So after I saw that, another great thing about when I saw that film in theaters. An idiot in the movie theater at the very end when the young guys get chased by his mother around the house. Some moron that worked for the theater turned on the house lights, which completely ruined the moment of seeing that type of film. But anyway, so Midsummer. I saw it with you. Actually, saw the when I knew that one was special was when I already knew it was going to be special because Ari Aster. And that shot when the main character is crying in her boyfriend's arms and the camera goes past them outside of the window for the opening credits, and you hear that beautiful soundtrack, and I was like, I knew I was in good hands when I was watching it. I actually saw the regular version with you, and very rare because I don't see movies over and over a lot unless they're on television or something that I like a lot. I went and saw the director's cut, which they played like a couple months later with my other friend. And I just loved it. And I loved the director's cut too. So it was like wild. It was completely different cinematic experience in the fact that version had a night scene because it was completely omitted from the regular cut. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a film that worked with a couple of, there's people that are always like, oh, this movie's too long, but I thought it was perfect. Anyway, so now to BEAU is Afraid. This is a departure in a sense. I don't think it's actually that big of a departure in how his storytelling goes, because his film style. Obviously, now we have Scorsese basically lionizing him every time, and I can imagine any director, having Scorsese talk to you about that. You know what I mean? Just saying how good you are as a director. It must be such an honor for that guy to be like, oh, this is great. I think there's a through line with all his films, obviously, because it's family driven. There's always anxiety in each one of them. And there's a sense of dark foreboding in each film. And there's like a little bit of like humor in each film, but I don't think it's like Hereditary is not a funny film, but there's funny stuff going on it because I think it's relatable. Because every one of these films is like relatable to, I guess, the American family. Do you know what I mean? But your thoughts on it, because I think you said that this wasn't his strongest effort to you, and why was that?
I think just the abstractness of it and the again, it's something that I didn't mind, but just if just in rating them, I just my initial thoughts about it, I just had better thoughts of the other films. I had more of a reaction in a different way, but I don't. It's hard to say because I just think this one is just a little bit too, and not negative, but just comparing it to the others, just more abstract. That's the reason why. It just doesn't have that through line that all his other films have.
You can't really, but he's the type of director that you can only compare his films with his films.
That's it. So that's the only reason I would say it's not as strong as, and it is very long, but I think it's worth it because it's a journey and. Film, it's films that are overlong and then you just are slogs are a completely different thing than this film. It's like there's always something happening. You're waiting for the next thing, and so that's the only reason. Is because it just doesn't have that.
Oh yeah, totally. Like
narrative through line.
I completely understand why people would be like, oh God, like what is this compared to this other films? I get that because I mean when the first reviews for this film came out, they were like super negative. They were like, oh God, Ari Aster's done as a filmmaker. This is trash. And I was like, it can't be that bad, can it? I mean, like, to me, when I saw Hereditary and I saw Midsommar, and obviously he was coming out with the next film, he already had gotten over the as they say, sophomore slump. You know what I mean? Because when you find out how much of a how many legs you have as an original director in cinema before you start doing, they force you into making a blockbuster film. Like I could say, like Richard Kelly is a good example because Richard Kelly did he did Donnie Darko. I when I saw Donnie Darko,
which is a masterpiece.
I know, and I saw that in theaters. When I saw it, when I knew that was special to me was the sequence where they used Tears for Fears, and they were going into the school and it was in slow motion, and I was like, this guy is brilliant. This is a genius movie. I love that movie. I saw it, multiple times in theaters as well. And then his sequel, his film to follow that was Southland Tales. And I remember going, "What is this?" Because on paper, I was like, "Okay, cool. It's a weird sort of apocalyptic type of film, right?" But then you had to read three books before you watched the film. 3 comic books, graphic novels. The comics didn't sell, so they only made 1 book. So you kind of left out with no idea what the hell the story is about. It had The Rock in it, and The Rock, I swear to you, that was one of the worst acting things I've ever seen anybody do. The Rock was horrible in that movie, and people say, "Oh, he was great. At least he tried, something different." Horrible movie.
Yes.
And then it also happened. I don't know if it also happened to me because this is different, but Aronofsky when he made Pi, and then right after Pi he did what was the movie with Hugh Jackman, The Fountain?
Requiem. No. He did Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem. Okay, so he did make the second.
Oh no. Yeah.
Pi was his first. Requiem
he was on a and he was on a good roll after that because he did 2 really good movies. I think it was the one with Hugh Jackman was like when he stepped into like a bigger budget.
Right, and when I saw that, I had no idea what the hell was going on, and I didn't like it. A lot of people loved that movie. There was girls that
I don't like it either.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so simpatico, bro, because it was nobody else. Everybody else that I talked to was just brilliant. I was like, I don't know. I
get it. It's not. The soundtrack is brilliant. The score is brilliant, but
there was a girl that I liked a lot that like showed it to me. She said, "Oh, it's great." I was like, "Yeah, it's good movie." What am I gonna say? But so that was his third film. Yeah. That's like he already had proven himself with Pi. Pi was way more indie than Requiem, and Requiem was a great film. A film I wouldn't watch again because it's so goddamn depressing, that movie, but it's really well done. And but then like he made the Fountain. So I always kind of see filmmakers that are unique filmmakers that make these type of films. Like so this was really his test. He's not like Ben Wheatley, where Ben Wheatley is a director people either like or don't like. You're not really a big fan of Ben Wheatley, but I liked his like I like am I right about that?
I liked his first film.
You say there's something that's missing about his filmmaking, right?
Yeah, he always misses the mark. He's like
I understand. I can see what you're saying. Yeah, he has
like the characters. He has like even the visuals, the setup, the story. But then there's something that he just never hits. Other than the first, what was the name of his first film that he did?
Kill List.
Was it his first film?
I don't know if Kill List. No, Kill List was his second film.
No. Okay, that was the first film that I saw of his.
Right.
I thought that one was good. I thought that one was good.
Because then he did A Field of England, which I liked, but that movie's not for everybody. And then he did High Rise, which certainly wasn't for everybody, but I liked it to a point. But I think he kind of got better with, and I'm making a point here. I'll get to it. He made something called About the Earth. I forgot what it's called, but In the Field or In the Grass or something like that, which was great. That was a return to form. But now he's like what I'm saying about Astor's sort of comparison. Is that now he's doing the Meg Part 2, and I wouldn't watch like a Meg film just because I have no interest in it.
But he directed that, bro.
He's doing the Meg Part 2. He didn't do the Meg Part 1. He got hired to do.
No, I know he
didn't. Right.
I know he didn't do 1, but I'm like, what?
You didn't know that?
I totally forgot.
So
that's
him now making the Meg 2, and I'm like, well, because that. So for me, and like that's scarier for me because I think Ben Wheatley, whether he's hit or miss, I'm more interested in his weirder type of film than seeing the Meg. Do you know what I mean? And then finally, we got Extreme Screwball, the director of District 9, which is, I guess, much like Richard Kelly. He had one film in him. I'm skipping on his name. The director of District 9, Neil Blomkamp.
Neil Blomkamp.
And he did.
I'm gonna be honest. I like his first 3 films.
Same.
I mean,
same.
Elysium and then Chappie.
Chappie. I like those 3 films. They're almost in the same world. That's the only takeaway is that they're almost like in the same universe.
Yeah.
But then he made a movie called Demonic, the worst movie I saw that year. One of the worst movies. I cannot understand how bad that movie was. I wouldn't even tell you to see it because then he was supposed to make Alien 5, and then that went to hell. So whatever. But then now he's doing a Gran Turismo movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So the reason why I bring all this with directors and specifically indie directors and them making artistic films is that Ari Aster was now on the cusp of whether this film would make it or not. And I think, luckily, that Ari Aster is so uniquely interesting as a director, because this movie bombed. Like, it totally bombed in the theaters. But I think it's one that's going to have legs later on. It's going to be one of those Criterion picks, you know what I mean? So hopefully he doesn't have to work on something else. His next film is a Western during the plague, basically. So, and I think it has Joaquin Phoenix in it as well. So I'm sure it's going to be good. You know, I like this, and even in his worst, I think Ari Aster is better than 80% of directors out there.
Yeah, I mean, I like this too, man. I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah,
I thought it was
you can have absolutely no
really
fear
good.
about talking about what didn't work for you and what did, you know, because that's what the thing about this now.
No,
This
absolutely.
discussion about it, you know. So why don't we jump into this film? So what is this film about?
This film is about all right, it focuses on this guy named BEAU, and he's pretty much played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he's trying to the very basic summary and plotline of the story is that he's trying to get to his mother. He's trying to take a trip to see his mother, and he's having a hard time getting there. And the reason he's having a hard time is because he suffers from massive anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so the entire movie is about him trying to get to his mother. It's very basic in that sense, but so much stuff happens that is just outlandish, but it's also abstract and crazy. And we pretty much go through a journey through seeing the world through his anxiety-ridden eyes. Mm-hmm. And so everything is just elevated and just we're pretty much seeing it through the eyes of somebody who has extreme anxiety. Right. I mean, that's the best way I can sort of like describe the film.
I'm sure I've seen anxiety on film before, but never to this level, because I think a lot of people were championing some recent films, like I think what was that Shrek movie that has the cat character? Antonio Banderas plays it. He just had a second film, and people said it's really good. And there's a scene of the cat having a panic attack, like an anxiety attack. And people said, oh my God, this is great. And then another film did that, and they were like, oh, these. And I'm like, well, hell, if you like anxiety in film, this is the film to see of the year. So I could imagine, I've had panic attacks and anxiety attacks really badly years ago, to the point where I remember the first time I had this sort of panic attack, I thought I was dying. I had no idea what was going on, and it's like such a weird thing for your body to sort of start doing things that you're not in control of. And I mean, I could relate to this film completely. So it was like, I'm glad I didn't have any flashbacks or any weird thing like that. But did you find yourself sort of going, oh my God, like I can relate to this character?
Oh, absolutely.
His anxiety.
Absolutely. I've had panic attacks before. There was a period in time where I was suffering from panic attacks constantly.
Yeah,
it's just something happened in my life that it was just like it's sprung it on, and I never had it before.
Right.
But then just having daily anxieties of just like different things of like going, you know, when you have to meet somebody, or you know, just the things of being late or whatever. So I think the thing about this film is that it takes it completely literally. Like it's literally showing you. And the thing too is that he's not necessarily having panic attacks, but he's just we're just seeing the anxiety that he has of like just everyday things, you know, the things that we hear about on you know, on a daily basis, news, you know, it's this great thing of like, you know, people always say, oh, there's people dying on the streets, and in this movie there's literally people dying on the streets, like when he walks outside. So it's like Ari Aster's like literally showing you all the anxieties that many people have, and he's literally manifesting them for you to see around BEAU as his like surroundings.
And it's interesting because you can take these bouts of, you know, anxiety from his character, you can take them as like literally seriously and funny at the same time, because it is a type of I think Ari Aster as a director, like the mother freaking out in Hereditary was like guttural. It was scary because that's like profound loss in that film. And in Midsommar, the loss of the main character in that guttural, scary. And here we're dealing with that sort of loss in a different way, because it's not as evident, you know, when his mother's passed away, and then he's already sort of this nervous character, but he has right to be nervous because I assume this movie is making fun of Skid Row in Los Angeles, because it looks like a hellscape, right? This is like all these like mentally ill people running around. I don't know what the correct phrase is, whatever. But these people are running around. They're nuts. They're like destroying things. There's like vandals. They of course had the one guy dancing to salsa. So at least
that's the humor that he puts in there. You know what I mean? It's like you're watching this and you're like, the guy's dancing to salsa. You know what I mean? Like no other director would put that in there, but like, that shows you his humor.
And that's a thing where you have to experience that to know. And I know you yourself have experienced that with certain music being played outside of your windows.
So that's the thing, is that he puts it so relatable, because it's like it like you said Los Angeles, but I'm like, this is every urban area. So he's showing everybody's anxieties in this film.
Yeah, and it's funny because you go from one urban hellscape, but then like it's juxtaposed to this sort of quiet like suburban area, and that's like holding some sort of terror
as
itself.
Crazy.
Yeah, so every place he goes into the middle of the woods, there's something crazy going on there, and then so it's like an interesting type of film. And in the house at the end, where it's like completely rich people, that's a hellscape itself. So it's so funny because this one man can't escape this terror in every place that he goes to. And it's an interesting film because it is an encapsulation of this guy's life, although he's playing like his late 40s, early 50s, I guess, in this film. And it starts out with the birth, and it's like a frightening, violent image, and it's probably for the best that none of us remember when we were born what happened, because I could believe it's like that. When the opening scene is him, trying to get out of the expel himself from the vagina, and then they have to slap him on the ass to make sure that he's breathing, and you hear the mother screaming, "You dropped him on his head! You dropped him on his head!" And it's just like, it's profoundly like frightening, because it's like that's everybody's sort of entrance to this world. You know what I mean? You don't remember anything, I think, before 5 years old, I believe. So I can believe that. And and it was so funny with the baby dummy that they used. It also had giant testicles. So that would like factor into the latest film. So can you tell us about his relationship with his therapist at the beginning of this film? And what he's talking about?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the film, it's the opening scene where he's in his therapist's office, and he's talking about sort of the fears that he's having, and then he starts talking about his mother, right? Mm-hmm. Am I saying that wrong?
She's calling him while he's talking to his therapist.
Oh, she's calling him, and he's explaining that he's going to take a trip. So and then the therapist is very like it's very weird, and he only writes down one word.
Yeah, guilty.
On his pad, right? Guilty. So he, Beau is explaining, that he feels guilty, and it just starts off very odd and weird,
and that does make sense for later on in the film that he only points out the word guilty, because that's like only for like what Beau has done, not with the mother, how the mother has like basically ruined this guy's life in a way. And then we jump to, and that's the guy also from Dune, the guy who was like able to, I forgot what that guy was doing in Dune, but he's a great actor. He was able to
flip his eyes, right?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. So then we go to Skid Row, and it's at night, and it's like this. It looks like hell. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen there's a lot of YouTube channels that go around to like screwed up cities, and they just film like addicts in the streets nodding off, and it looks like
I've seen one in Philly.
That's the one that I was thinking about right now. And it's scary. You're like, because people complain about New York, and I'm like,
I've never seen it like that.
I've never seen it like this. And it really is scary. And Skid Row looks like
Yes.
this at times because that's the area where a lot of addicts. Because like Hollywood is like, I mean, we should be the last people from New York talking crap about any other city, but if you've ever seen Skid Row videos, because there are a lot of actors that go to Los Angeles to become stars, and 80% of them ain't gonna make, 90% of them ain't gonna make it, and it becomes that sort of transplant and transience in the street, and that's what I think this film is representing in these scenes, at least, because I would assume filmmakers in Hollywood, they find this stuff relatable, and so we see a big sweep across the city. Or this little area in this neighborhood, the guy dancing in the street. I actually can see clips right now because I'm watching it, and like the dance school. The reason why that guy's dancing salsa is because the school says dance school and it says salsa and merengue on the side of it.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
we see a lady handing out soup and stuff and broth to feed to the homeless. Mm-hmm. We get introduced early to this naked killer guy who runs around stabbing people.
Right.
And then we see this one of the main, I guess, an antagonist, a short antagonist, this guy who's like full body tattoos, and his eyes, his sclera is like blacked out, and we see Beau running home, and we're like, why is he running home? Because Beau is afraid to go anywhere. That's where the title is, like, Beau is afraid. And he gets back to his house, and what is Beau's life like in his home? Like, this is a guy, obviously we don't find out now yet, but that he's obviously somebody from privilege, but he's living in a really shit area. And what's going on? What do you think's going on? Why is he relegated to this shithole of a building with these creeps outside and all that?
To be honest, I mean, it's weird, man, because it's like, he lives in this like shitty apartment building that has these really narrow hallways, and it's like, and then he goes into his apartment, and his apartment is actually, it's very roomy. It doesn't look like it's horrible. It's like well maintained, and it's actually a pretty nice area. I mean, inside of his apartment, but he's living in this like sort of like really horrible slum place where like obviously he's exaggerating it to another level. So but he just lives very like just very secluded, and I feel like he's hiding from something, or he's just you know what I mean, or like he's hiding from everything. So that's the way his apartment is kind of set up. You know what I mean? It's like there's not a lot of furniture and stuff, but and he has like an old computer. Is it an old computer?
Yeah, like a little laptop, and I was just laughing because he has his TV set up, and he even has the box for the TV next to the bureau. So it's just like even small shit like that.
There's just a lot of stuff that it's like you have to pick. You can't really pick it all up at once, to understand what it all means. Right. But it's just very strange and weird. And
this is very much like a second and third viewing type of film where you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense
absolutely.
Now after you watch it. Because as I'm looking at sequences right now, I'm just picking up. I'm like, he must have flung himself from the farthest reaches of where his mother lives to get away from her.
Right.
That's what,
right.
Like subconsciously. Do you know what I mean? Like he just did that because
he's running away.
Right.
Yeah, he's running away.
He picks the shittiest area as he's coming from money. Like he's coming from money. His mother owns or created a corporation, and he can live
which we don't know in the beginning. We don't know that,
yeah.
Right? So we have no context for why he's there, and that comes up later on, and we're like, oh, why was he living there? And it's like he could be living where his mother lives, right? You know what I mean? Or like even nearby, and he has to like, in order to visit her, he has to take a flight. So he's like running away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it becomes that sort of idea of when rich kids kind of move far away because they only know one type of life. And when they have the scary reality of what they want, and they'd rather stay with that sort of scary reality, you're like that, then there must be some issue at home. And obviously this is a film about overbearing parents. Ari Aster called this movie a Jewish Lord of the Rings. It was like some sort of odyssey of getting home, even though that's why I say it was a weakness. Because when I hear odyssey, like, to me, and it's going to sound strange, but I think it's appropriate, it's like Tim Burton's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like, for me, that was an odyssey. That was like a road trip movie. That's like, for
Absolutely.
me, whenever you're like sort of, oh, I want to see a movie that's all about going across the world and stuff like that. That is it, because that film almost felt like every 10 minutes it was a different movie, or at least it was in a different area, and it was incredible. So with that was my only sort of letdown with this film, that it didn't go all the way, like even more so. I think it went all the way in the way that it needed to, but I think that it really only has 5 sort of settings. It has that crappy apartment that he lives in, the flashback on the ship. It has the trees, the crazy couple's house, and then the finale with I would dump in obviously the attic and his mother's house and stuff like that. That's all it is. It's really 5 enormous set pieces, and the way that this film was kind of sold should be more than that. Like a guy losing his mind from point A to point B. And that's my only sort of real where, like, oh, there was a potential for something more than this, but how much more can you do? Because the movie originally was 4 hours long, and as it is, it's 2 hours and 59 minutes, and it was based on a short called BEAU that Ari directed with a different actor initially. I forgot the guy's name. Billy Mayo was in the original one. And Billy Mayo is the lead actor who was in Something About the Johnsons, and that's like the film that really, I think that's the film that got Ari Aster his first film, really, because that was like huge on the internet about this family, and I don't want to spoil that, but go watch Something About the Johnsons. That is a bugged out movie.
It is.
So with this film and like, this is a film about analyzing sort of. And the one thing is, what about the BEAU short? The only thing that's similar between that film and this is the scene where the key is locked into or lost at the door. I would never leave my key inside my door personally. I don't think you would either. Especially for this character, it doesn't make any sense that he leaves his key dangling on his door just so he could run back and get like toothbrush or something, which is bizarre, and that makes him lose. That's the only thing that's taken from the short film into this. And from that, he's not able to visit his mother. His mother's played by Patti LuPone, right? And she definitely like guilt trips. What is your? We're jumping a little bit ahead, but what is your thought of the relationship between Patti LuPone's mother character and BEAU?
Oh, she's just very like controlling. She doesn't listen to anything he says. She doesn't believe him. After he loses his keys, he calls her and as he's trying to explain like what happened, and she's not buying it, and she's like, you still have to get here, or she's not really listening to anything he's saying. So she definitely overpowers him, and I feel like that's where all his anxiety and his fears comes from. It's just a life of that. Is this overbearing mother, and that's pretty much his relationship up until the point until we meet her, that we start to really see it. You know what I mean? But from that for that first phone call, we can really tell, because she's sort of ignoring what he's saying. She's not believing him. You know what I mean? And it's very strange.
Frustrating too, yeah. Because
it's frustrating. But the great thing about that opening, that first sequence when he's like trying to get catch, he needs to leave. He wakes up late because there's people playing music. First of all, they're blaming him for playing loud music where he's not even playing music, right? So it's like all the fears that we have on a daily basis is happening to him on an extreme level.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? And then he rushes out. Like, how many times have we been afraid that we're going to be late the next morning, especially if we're going to take a flight or something? And he's late, and then he leaves his keys, and then somebody just takes his keys when he leaves for like 2 seconds, and then he can't get there, and then he even goes online and he tries to buy new tickets, and then our biggest fear is like it's going to say card decline, and it happens. And so it's like,
oh yeah,
that whole beginning is just like builds up exactly all the anxiety, and it builds up what the film is. You know what I mean? I love that first half of the film.
Yeah, I think I think I agree with you that I think the first half is stronger than the second half with this film, because there's such an incredible build up, and it really goes like Looney Tunes in the second half, which I appreciate, but I can see why people are like, what the hell is going on with this, and where is it going, and what am I learning from this? Because I don't know if people really are contemplating other than what's literally on screen, which is this guy BEAU is having a mental breakdown, and then it turns really fanciful in the second half. and we don't know, if it's going to be some sort of armchair psychiatrist watching, going, "Oh, he must have, died at this point of the film, and this is him having some sort of mental breakdown, or he's having a hallucination here or there." So it really is a multiple viewing type of film. But the thing is, like, it's either you're going to be turned on or turned off by the end of the first viewing to want to watch it again and again. And I think the strength is Joaquin Phoenix's sort of comedic role in this film. And I appreciate when sort of straight actors or, dramatists are, really open to being funny in a film. And he's not, like I said before, he's playing it straight, but it's a very funny role. So little things like in the beginning of the film when we see him walking into town, he's trying to get a little statue for his mom. He's trying to bring her some. It's like a little piece of tchotchke, a piece of crap that he's going to buy his mom a little statue. And like there's a little kid playing with a toy boat that flips upside down, which is like a preview of what happens at the end of the film. And when one guy is trying to jump off or is threatening to commit suicide by jumping off of a roof, and the same guy from Midsommar, the one who freaked out at the person who died, is the same guy taking the selfie and laughing at the same time, which I thought was a funny cameo from the guy from Midsommar.
Callback, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh god, this is funny. And the corpses in this film, because we see a couple of them, like I don't know what it is with Ari Aster's. You told me that it was like this sort of rotting, like bizarre look to these corpses, because they really don't look human when they're gone. Like these people just look disturbing, and I guess it is good in a sense that they just don't look like crappy dummies in horror films. Like there's an art even into the dummies in this film.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know what Ari is trying to tell us with this film. I think he's probably not trying to preach anything to us necessarily. I think what he's trying to do is experience something. This is almost like a psychopathic simulator. You know what I mean? Because like when all those homeless people break into his apartment and mess it up, like what were you feeling when you saw that part? Were you like laughing, or you were like, "Damn, this sucks for like BEAU," or what?
I was thinking it sucks, man, because I'm just like I'm putting myself in that situation. I'm like,
same.
People would fucking just come into my apartment and start ravaging it. And I'm like, oh my god, and then I can't get in, and it's like so horrible. But it's like, again, like the worst fears are just all his worst fears were coming true to us, the viewer. And it's like, damn, it's crazy. And another thing I want to talk about too is like the thing that makes this movie and all his other movies is that he's very, as far as like the craft of like filmmaking, it's very high. You know what I mean? Like the way he just like the way the camera, and I like that he shoots full screen. He shoots 16:9. He doesn't shoot widescreen, and I like that he made that choice in his films, because it's different. You can see more of what's happening in the frame, and it's perfect for the type of films that he makes, and just the way the camera moves and how it rack focuses to things. And it's like he never lets the craft, he never like focuses on other things. He focuses on the craft first and then tells the story, and it's like it works hand in hand. That's what I love about his films, and especially about the beginning of this film and the first half of this film, is that he's sticking to that, and he's really focused on that aspect of it. You know what I mean?
And he does some really beautiful transition shots too that are like,
oh yeah,
and I'm sure they've been
hard
done
cuts
elsewhere, but like hard cuts of like in Hereditary there was like a night to day shot, or I don't know if it was reversed or day to night. No, it was a day to night shot of the woods. And then in one of my favorite transition shots of all time was in Midsommar, when the main character was going to take a flight on a plane, and she goes into the bathroom and it cuts, and then she's walking into the plane already. You know what I mean? So like that type of, I was like, oh my god, like that is such a beautiful. You could see that shot in the trailer, and in context, I was like, oh, what's this? And when I saw it in the film, I was like, this is incredible. So like his transition and his filmmaking abilities in this film are just so, and you can see it in the giant sort of play section where he's living a life that I think that he wants to live outside of his mother's hands. That's the only way I can think about it after. Because like you said, that this film, the fears in this film, they don't feel like a fear in Hereditary. Like those are like actual demonic, entities trying to attack you. And Midsommar is a little bit closer to reality, but like you wouldn't put yourself in that situation more often than a regular person would. You know what I mean? So that's like like you're driving to go deal with like a Jonestown massacre type of thing. In here, like you say, the fears are much more realistic of having people invading your space. There's a mention of a brown recluse spider, and I've even had a fear of brown recluse spider because like when I've seen photos of what those things do when they bite you and basically the meat from your hands disappear when they bite that certain area. But those are like are like in like certain areas, like they're near wooded areas. And like,
okay, good.
You know, so that the only thing that was missing here from this movie was that little, you know, when people swim in the summer, and then that little like, there's like this little microbe that goes up your nose and eats your brain, and you die like 2 or 3 days after it. That's the only thing that was missing from. That's a real thing that happens when people go into untreated water or water during the summer times, and it's usually upstate or like hotter areas. That's the only thing that I think was a realistic fear that wasn't in this one.
But that's the whole point of the movie. Is like that's why you don't want to go outside, bro. Because all these things can happen. You know what I mean? It's like that's what the movie does. It's like how many times have I been? It just happened to me yesterday. Like I was sleeping in my bed. I checked my wall because sometimes there's shit crawling on it. Like yesterday, there was like a fucking spider crawling on it. And I had to kill it, and it was right by my bed where I was sleeping my head. So if I didn't look up, who knows where it would have gone? So it's like. Those are they're very personal fears. They're personal to everybody that's watching them that, you know,
and the
has
thing is,
experienced it in some way.
Spiders aren't necessarily bad for you, but I'm not a spider expert. If there's some spider crawling on me, that thing is dead.
Yeah,
like, I don't have problems with spiders because they're actually good for a house because they kill like flies and everything else.
They kill the insects,
But if there's anything
to be honest, sorry, I've let spiders live before. But if it's close to my head,
you're listen. It's okay, man. I agree 100%. Like if it's crawling near me, like they could have their own like area somewhere else. You know, if it's somewhere that's like high up in the ceiling, and they're not messing with me, and I see that they're doing their job killing flies, all power to them.
Good.
Now, if they're in my room, that's it. You're assed out. I'll give them one chance. I'll try to do a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Let them crawl on it. If they don't want to crawl on it, then they're fucked. Fuck them. You know. I'm trying. Exactly. I can't talk in spider. So let's get into the accident scene, and he ends up in the home of two very famous actors. But they're playing a very interesting couple in this film. They're played by Amy Ryan, who's playing Grace, and Nathan Lane, who's playing Roger. Also with the daughter Tony, played by Kylie Rogers. Let's discuss. I think this is the weakest part of the film for myself. But yours is coming up after this. So what was your thought on this scene? And how did he get into the situation?
Well, he got hit. They hit him with their car, and they brought him back here. So he's going crazy where he lives. He's trying to get a cop's attention. The cops is about to shoot him, which is another fear that a lot of people have in today's world, where like the police, you know, and if you mess with them in the wrong way,
and if he wasn't white, they wouldn't even be there.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that the cop's about to shoot him anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like his fears are exasperated. So when he's trying to run away from the cop, he gets hit by this couple, and they bring him back to their house. And actually, I actually enjoyed this part as well from the beginning and this part. It just kept the tone, and it just kept escalating. It wasn't as like crazy as the first part, but it still felt the same. Like it still had that same feeling of like, what's gonna happen next? Where is this going? What other weird thing is gonna happen? And a bunch of weird things happen. Like he wakes up in the daughter's bedroom, and they're like, what's his name? Nathan Lane plays a doctor, and he's like bringing him back to health, and Roger. And then when he finally gets up, we find out that he's living in the daughter's room. He's staying in the daughter. The daughter fucking doesn't like it, and she just keeps recording him with her her
and
phone.
that is like one of the most frustrating. It was so frustrating because it's like, and it felt very realistic with her and her friend, and they're like recording him like taking drugs because they're like forcing drugs on him, and he's like this very like nubbishly scared dude. And they're like recording him to use basically as blackmail later on. Because obviously she's a kid that they had a son who was killed in action in war, I assume. Because his whole room is just like, the son's room is left alone. Like all his army stuff is up there, or Marines or whatever it is. And they don't pay attention to this young girl Tony, and from that she's fucked up. So that's like showing something else. Like Tony drove me insane. The little girl, she just drove me nuts. Yeah. But I'm seeing now as I watch it, like she's basically going through what BEAU did with these overbearing parents that basically ignored her, as opposed to what BEAU's mother did to him, which was like coddle him to an extreme. And then inside that,
and she's also medicated, right?
Yeah,
she's also taking pills
because the father's a doctor, so he's you know, he's just, instead of actually talking to he calls like a little asshole. You know what I mean? That's the sort of relationship he has with his kid, that he dopes her up as opposed to even, you know, talking to her or thinking about her feelings. And that's a lot coming from me because I fucking hated her character. But I was like, now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, she was doomed from her parents, because every parent in this film is not thinking for the wellness of their kids. They're thinking about the wellness of the fact that they're like paying attention more to BEAU, and they're taking care of him at the house because they're probably afraid of getting sued. But then also they're a part of the whole thing. You know what I mean? They're also a part of everything. So, which honestly, if you think back to the mother not believing him losing his keys, she would have had a camera on him in the first place, so she would know that in the first place. So that's like a giant like fuck up in writing, but whatever. And then in this house they have a guy named Jeeves, played by I think no, that's a different guy, the army guy, right? There's like a big giant army guy that's with him.
And that's Jeeves.
That is Jeeves. Okay, because the actor Denise, is that the guy from
Menochet?
He looks like the guy from Inglourious Bastards, is he?
Yeah, the first scene.
No way.
Father.
He doesn't even look the same in this film. Anyway, well, he's a good actor.
He gained weight, man.
That guy's a good damn actor. He was great in Inglourious Bastards. God, what a great opening scene in that film. Anyway, so yeah, he's like a dude with PTSD, and the daughter sort of has him wrapped. I don't know what the relationship between the Tony and he is. I don't think it's a sexual thing, but it's very it's very questionable, because obviously she's treating him almost like a bulldog. You know what I mean? And like she's basically like, I want you to. You can only infer that she's going to want him to kill BEAU at some point, you know, to get rid of him.
But you know what I got from that guy is that because he's also a veteran, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like he served with the son.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. So it's like, I think they like took him in because the son, and also the son was they were talking about what the son did, and I think he got killed in action, right? But I think he killed like friendlies.
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken. Dude,
that's not funny in real life. It's just for the context of the movie.
I know, it's crazy. So I'm assuming like he's either, I'm not the son. I'm sorry. This guy Jeeves killed friends.
Yeah, right. Jeeves.
So maybe Jeeves killed the son. You know what I mean? So
you
it's
don't
like,
know, yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to have him there, and he's just out of his fucking mind, and you know they take him in, but another great thing about that scene is that he's also still trying to get to his mother's house, so he keeps asking them to drive him, and they just keep putting it off, which is so frustrating.
It's so maddening.
It's one of the worst fears that people do have. Like, I need to get out of here. Can somebody just take me? Oh, we can't right now. Like, I gotta leave. And, you know, it's so they keep pushing it back. So that's another great moment.
It really is like a clear goal that you can have in life, right? And then everything is like everything in the world is trying to stop you from just reaching that one goal. Because if we're taking into account, like, obviously this is a spoiler podcast, that the mother was basically, you know, had her fingers in everything because she's been watching him this whole time. She's probably punishing him this whole time. She's just punishing him throughout this whole thing, putting him through his own odyssey for not being the person that she thought he would grow up to be. You know what I mean? And like, it seems like that because she's obviously put the cameras in that family's house to watch him. It seems like no matter what corner he turns, she has touched, you know, her fingers are in some sort of pie, you know what I mean, that is part of his life. And that's like, and it's real life, and I'm sure there's people that have that amount of money that can fuck with others just for the whim of it, you know what I mean? And so like that leads to Tony's paint scene, right? When she eats that paint, brother, oof. That is,
it's
like
a crazy scene, man. It's insane. And this is when it turns, because the mother comes in as Tony, she's choking or she's dead or something. She's almost dead. She's not dead because she drives him later, right?
No, she's
So
dead.
she's like choking. Is she dead?
Oh yeah, she dies in that scene.
Okay, I'm totally forgetting that she never drives him anywhere, right?
No, that was the part when they were bothering him before she drank the paint. It was her and her friend filming him.
Okay.
And then she drank the paint and died. And then
because they said she's like, I'm gonna drive you. My dad told me to drive you, and so they drive, but they keep just going in circles.
Right? Yeah.
He's like,
just to
you
film
keep passing the house. You keep passing the house. So they're just doing it just to screw with them.
Yeah.
So she dies there, and then the mother goes crazy, and she like turns on Beau.
Yeah, so
after the daughter dies,
he can't catch a break in this film, and this leads to the big giant sort of flashback sequence where he's on the boat and he meets the love of his life, and he himself has been put in a situation where he is talking to a woman besides his mother, because all he knows is his mother, and the fear that his mother installed which is later she instilled with him, is that what is the big fear that she tells him dealing with sexuality? Do you remember? I forgot.
No, I don't remember.
The first time that her mother and his father had his father had sex.
Yes. The first time he had sex, the father dies. The father gets a heart attack, right?
Yeah, while he ejaculates.
When he finishes. So that becomes Beau's big fear with having sex.
And a fear that she's instilled with him, and so that affects any relationship that he could be in, because he's never been in a relationship because of that, right?
Right.
So we have this whole section where he's at him as a young boy, and it was so funny because when I saw the trailer for this film, the guy who plays Beau when he's a teenager is played by Armin Nahapetian, and he looks CGI in the film. He
does.
The way that they filmed him was so clean and so like. The guy has not one blemish on his face. He looks like a CGI version of... He looks like a bad CGI version of Joaquin Phoenix, right? Like, not bad like he's an ugly kid. He just looks like if they try to de-age him, like Harrison Ford
I thought that's what they did. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, they de-aged him for they put him on like a younger person's body.
Because it does not look real. He literally does not look like a real person. And he had to go on Instagram and say, look, I'm a real person. That was the funny part of it, because even his photos looked AI. And I'm like, well, this kid takes the best lighting I've ever seen in any photo. And so we meet Parker Posey's character, Elaine, when she was a kid. And their relationship, and the mother instantly regrets. Has that ever happened to you where because I'm not. This isn't a therapy session for us, but I can certainly talk about. Of course, when I ever brought my first girlfriend when I was younger to the house, and my mom was like, "What do you?" It's just like what? But that could be a Spanish mom thing. I have no concept of what it is, but I'm sure this is going on in lots of houses where and it might not just be a mother thing, a father thing with daughters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's but
no, go ahead.
So I think that's a big thing in these films, is that he's sexually repressed, and that's something that we didn't pull on before. When he was getting into the bathtub before the whole brown recluse spider was these giant balls, and I was like, that's going to come back into the film. It has to, right? Because it's other than just sort of a funny thing, why would you put these gigantic balls? And they even bring it up in the film because he was checking to see if he had cancer, right? With his testicles. Yeah. But when he's a kid, he gives that young girl a kiss, and the mother freaks out about it, takes her off the boat. His mother freaks out about it. She's basically trying to frighten him to, be out of any relationship with anybody. And that one photo of her, and I'm sure you as well as I have this sort of, there's always one that got away, or somebody that we could have imagined a future with, and we'll always have them, clinging into our heads, because that's probably the safest and better option of dating that person ever, because usually it's either I screw it up. But how did that speak to you, if that whole, and obviously not to get too personal, that whole idea of just you had somebody that you liked, and something just kind of crowbarred it in the way? Was that something that happened to you, or personally or family wise?
Absolutely. That's happened to me a few times.
Sorry to laugh, but I can relate.
No, it happened to me it happened to me early on too, when I was young, probably his age in the movie where he's playing when he's a kid, 12 years old or something. There was one person that I was just so like head over heels for.
And it hurts, right? It hurts.
And I had the opportunities, and there was a time when it was all right. Things were going well, and I was super young,
right?
And then it just like it didn't happen, and then I just kept thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like even years, bro.
Right, of course,
even years. Yeah. But it's like, but that's happened to me a few times, in different stages of my life. But yeah, again, that's another thing you can relate to is like,
I think that everybody can relate to it, and I think that like once you see that it's just like, and the thing is, and at least there's a little bit of happiness that's sort of like with an asterisk. Dealing with that will deal with, but I've certainly got that through that myself. I remember like even when I was a little bit older, and I was working in this one spot, and there was a girl that obviously would like it wasn't even obvious, she would flirt with me all the time, right? But then she would date like these bums that worked at the place, you know what I mean? At the same place. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh, you want to go hang out? She goes, no, it's okay. So then I was like, okay, so she's not into me. All right. So I took the hints, even though it like sucked. And she dated these like guys, and it made me think about myself. I was like, oh my god, I must be a big piece of crap if she's dating these like weirdos and stuff. And then of course later on when I leave the workplace, then it's the message here. Then it's, oh hey, come on, dude. It's just like, no way. Like, get out of here. Like, what am I gonna put myself through? So that is a definition of your love life being screwed up because of outside forces. Ultimately, you have to, answer for your own kind of shenanigans in life. But I think BEAU is like a character who's innocent, really, of everything that's thrust upon him in this world. And that leads to the fourth of the fifth chapters of this film. And I'm going to leave this up to you, because I think this is the part of the film that you said that you were like, uh-oh, for yourself. So this is the woodland section. What is going on with the woodland section?
So he now, to be honest, I didn't hate this part of the film. So I'll just say this up front. I saw the film in two parts because I saw it in the early in the day, right? And then I was like, it's getting too late. I gotta, cut it off. So I cut it off
in two parts too. I saw it in 2 parts too. Absolutely, I saw it in 2 parts.
Okay. So I cut it off right when he's like before this scene begins. So I got into it, I think that might have been a factor that affected it, because it changes pace and tone a little bit. Like, it changes mostly pace. It gets very slow and it becomes more like abstract and ethereal in this point. So I was maybe like expecting it to be like the same thing as what has been going on already. So he ends up in the forest, and he finds this woman who leads him to this like so what would you call these people that he comes upon, like forest people?
I think they're a traveling act, like traveling troupe of
act.
actors.
Okay, right. So they're a traveling act. They live in tents, and they have this huge stage. And she's like, "Oh, we're gonna put on a show. We travel." She explains what they do and what they are, and so she's like, "We're gonna put on a show. You want to be, you want to sit and watch it." And then a guy comes out like, "You want to dress up in a costume because we like the crowd to like interact with us." So BEAU pretty much watches this stage play, and it's sort of like. The theme of the play is what is I forgot exactly what it was. Like, I forgot how to explain it.
I understand what you're saying, because he meets this pregnant woman, and she's sort of like a nice lady.
Right.
She brings him in, and this play really is about a man's life who it's really hard to explain. It really is, because obviously they tell him, oh, sometimes this might feel autobiographical, even though he has never experienced any of this stuff. And the play is basically talking to you as a person, because it has characters in the film. I mean, it has characters in the play where both his parents are dead, and then he goes on a life's journey. And as he's going on this journey, it turns from a play of like us watching in third person to the play directly talking to us. And obviously they're talking to BEAU, but it's also talking to us as an audience of what we potentially could go through in a span of a life, right? And
it's animated by the people that did The Wolf House, which is a film I think you could find in Shudder. It's these Latino directors. It's an incredible film. I was talking to Deckard before saying it's a great film, but it's not a film for everybody, because visually, like, you can just see how beautifully this sequence of the film is. That's what that movie is. They basically did stop motion, and it took them like 6 years to make this movie of the Wolf House movie, and you could see, because it's just like my brain can't even, like, comprehend how they made that film. And in this, what I appreciate sometimes with bigger films is that they will take 10 minutes out of a section and make a short film within a larger film that could stand on its own. And that's why I appreciated this, but I can certainly see people going, what the hell did I just watch?
Once BEAU starts being part of the play, and it's first person, and we're seeing what his life plays out, what could be his life, that whole section is amazing.
It is, yeah.
I'm like,
it's
then it starts getting, it's amazing, and it's beautifully shot.
And it's very different from animation. The rest of the film, how it looks. It almost feels like
it's very different,
completely different film in its own right.
It's like living out a real stage play where they're changing like settings, but it's happening in a real way with the world around you. So it's like, and it goes through this entire story of from when BEAU has a family, and then he loses the family, due to like a flood or something, right? So like a natural disaster,
and then he basically becomes like in jail, right?
Then he goes to jail, and then he frees himself, and then he pretty much spends the rest of this play, or like his life, looking for, his family and his kids who are now grown, and eventually he finds them, and they embrace and they cry, and he realizes that the mother is missing still, and she's probably dead, and he thought the mother might be with the kids, and so it's like if BEAU is playing out what his life could be.
It becomes like super meta, because that character spurned from a play to go to a play to meet his sons, but then his sons are like, how did you have us? And this is going back to another regret in his life, that he's never had sex. He's never been with a woman. So no way could he have had a child, because he has this fear basically implanted into him from his mother that he will die as soon as he has sex with somebody. Basically his mother, putting him in this situation where he will always be hers, and he will never sort of sully himself by having sex with somebody else. You know what I mean? And that's when we learn in that one sequence where his mother tells him, your father had died like this, and you shouldn't do this. And then I think the film shifts to its final act when that character comes in, the PTSD guy, starts shooting up everybody. And it's just like, okay, we're going to the finale part of this film, because I wasn't expecting that part, especially how gory and graphic it was. But I think it's in line with Aster's sort of madcap, wackiness. And so you really do see the two halves of this films and how they deal with one another. I think the first two halves with the nightmare area that he's living in, and the family that he's living in, is this sort of manic sort of comedy to it. And in this part, I think what Aster was going for was more like the art house, and they didn't necessarily transition well from one to another, because it's like I was laughing at the dark weirdness, and then this sequence alone was a little bit more, highbrow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't
think it had emotional. It was more emotional, definitely.
Absolutely.
Like,
so
you started to really feel for him, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty brilliant the way he was done. Is like, this guy is like, he's imagining what he could have.
Right.
The fact that he hasn't had sex, so he's like, somebody like that would probably be, fantasizing about, like, having kids, and even if he goes through this horrible thing where he loses his family, at least it's something, you know what I mean? But it's something that BEAU probably he's not gonna experience, because of the stuff that he's been going through with his mother, and his repression and all that stuff.
And I think it's definitely going to the discussion that we had about, like, the love life that we missed out on. It's always that what if, because for a lot of people in life, though, your life becomes what if, why didn't I do this, or why didn't do that, and it's always like, and you should not be able to live that way. because you're just gonna never, you won't be able to get out of your house. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a big factor in this film. Is like his whole thing is what if that. I think that third act. I mean, I guess it is the third act with the forest. Is him having his whole what if, you know, breakthrough in his mind, because, and it didn't go through it in a sort of conventional way where he was talking to somebody about it. Like in a normal film, he'd go to like some girl at a diner and be like, how come I didn't do this? How come I didn't do that? And it would be like sort of standard thing, as opposed to us seeing a fictionalized life that obviously he never had and never will. And this leads us to the
done that way.
Right. Yes.
Done that way with animation, and also done like having the play come to life in a real environment. You know what I mean? And again, it's pretty. It's the story that happens is sad because he loses his family for so long until he's an old man. But what I love about that part, which I'm really like deciphering right now, is that at least he experienced something, even if it's bad. And I like that he put that in there.
Yeah,
that it wasn't just that he met a family and had a nice life and lived happily ever after. Some, you know, he had that for a little bit, and then bad stuff happened.
This is a film, obviously, like we said before, like on more, you know, in an analytical scale. You're like, oh yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I get it now. I understand now what is going on and what Ari was trying to do without hammering it over our heads. Because any other film that was dealing with this storyline, they would have just hammered you right over the fucking head with.
They would have just done it in dialogue or some weird flashback.
Oh my god!
Or something.
Mom, why didn't you do this? You know, that kind of shit. So take us into the finale, the final section. This is it gets even crazier than the fucking play, that's for sure. So lead us right into that funeral. What is going on here?
So BEAU finally reaches his mother's house, which is this really upscale place, like this. And then this is when we start. So when he gets there, he asks one of the guys. There's like people coming in and out, moving stuff, and he has like, "Is the funeral happening?" He's like, "It's over. People are leaving." So he goes inside, and we see this house. It's like 3-story house. It's like super postmodern. You know that somebody
Beautiful
wealthy
house.
lives here.
Oh yeah.
And so he starts walking around, and he sees he actually sees his mother like in a casket with no head, because I don't think we mentioned it. She died because a chandelier fell on her and decapitated her or destroyed her head or whatever. And so he sees the body there, and then he starts walking around, and we start noticing that she's like a mogul or whatever, and she owns all these companies, and we see pictures of BEAU there, and he was in some of the advertisements, right? Of like the tooth she has a toothpaste company, or she's like is mogul the proper word, I guess?
A mogul, right? Yeah, a mogul.
Yeah, she's a mogul.
Mogul is basically a person who's very smart business-wise, and they're able to have a lot of stuff.
And owns companies, and owns a lot of companies, and she owns a corporation.
Right.
Yeah, she owns a corporation that makes all these, products, and she's super rich. So we start to get like more of a backstory of, what is, where BEAU came from. Like, he came from money, and that kind of like starts going in your head, and like, damn, why was he leaving over there if he had all this? And then so he pretty much mentions the funeral, and then he starts playing music, right? He puts on one of her favorite songs. Go ahead.
So let me just say the two things. There's two interesting cameos. One of them is Bill Hader as the guy who found the body.
Oh, the UPS guy.
He did this while he was messing up the final season of Barry. No, I'm just kidding. Barry's a good final season. Depending. You can listen to our episode on that. And then also Richard Kind, who's a great actor. Mostly you see him as comedian. He's like the guy who's like funny. Richard Kind, if you saw what he looked like. He was the guy at the end, the mother's lawyer at the end.
Yeah.
And he was basically, we've only heard him as a phone call throughout this whole film, like basically admonishing BEAU this whole time, every 5 seconds, that he's not at his mother's home, he's not at her home. But going back to what you said, he gets interrupted looking at the house by somebody knocking at the door. And who is that person?
It's the girl that he was in love with when he was a child, played by Parker Posey.
Yeah, Elaine, grown up.
Elaine grown up. She comes in. She doesn't recognize him. She's like, I just came to pay my respects, and she leaves. And then he follows her out and says, I'm BEAU. and she's kind of like taken back by it.
Parker
and then
Posey
he asks her,
Parker
he's
Posey
like,
is beautiful.
Yeah, she doesn't age really, and he asks her like, "Why are you here?" And she's like, "To pay my respects." But he's like, "Did you work for her?" So apparently she worked for the mother, right?
Which is very sinister, because that almost feels like the mother had the thumb on her too, to know where she was.
Exactly.
This is a sinister ass movie.
I forget what happens next, but go ahead.
I think that she feels bad for him.
She feels bad. She says, "Let's go inside."
Yeah. She's turned on by him because they never really got to consummate when they were children back then. But I'm sure she also had thoughts of what if. Women do, go through thinking about what guy they probably should have went with or girl they should have went with. And I'm sure at this moment she sees this guy is definitely, like, this is the guy in one of those romance movies, like the wife is like dating a complete asshole in some movie, and then she runs into a guy who's like completely sweet and like vulnerable, and he wouldn't screw her up like the asshole husband or boyfriend would. So this is that moment, except for I didn't see any wedding ring on her, so I guess she's single herself, and she just gives into sleeping with him, which leads to one of the greatest scenes in the history of cinema. I tell you, I've never laughed harder when I watched this scene, and this is when I knew I was like, okay, so I was supposed to laugh through this movie. What? Can you explain what the sex scene is? I guess without YouTube hearing certain curse words that'll get us kicked off of YouTube. But what leads up to that scene when she is with him in this room? She's playing music. What is she doing? It's almost difficult to explain.
Wait. Okay, she's dude, what is she doing?
She plays Mariah Carey's "Always Be My Baby."
Oh my God, she does. She plays that song, bro. I'm like,
actually asked Mariah Carey. He wrote her a letter because it's very hard to get music from Mariah Carey, apparently. And he actually wrote it to her, and she says, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And I was like, if anything, Mariah Carey gets props for that, just for having a song like that is obviously played for laughs in this, because it's like, now I'll always think of that song. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously we always hear her Christmas song every year, but I'll always think about this song too. And if more people get exposed to this scene, I think they will love it. But the sex scene, what happens at the moment of sex? Because this is his biggest anxiety moment, right?
This is big. Yeah, this is the thing that he's been denied his entire life. Hence the huge balls, huge testicles, which we get a glimpse of as she's on top. So she gets on top. They undress. He undresses in the bathroom and runs in because I guess he's embarrassed that he's like out of shape.
So badly, I was like, "Oh, this motherfucker's right into the back." Obviously, because he had a big cut on his stomach, but also he had a gut, which was so fucking funny.
Yeah, he also had a gut. So, but that's another thing we can relate to. But like, damn, I'm out of shape. Whatever, I have to get undressed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's perfect. So anyway, they get in bed, and she gets on top, and they just start going at it, and of course, Bo starts freaking out because he's getting close to finishing. He's getting close to the end. It's climaxing, and his big fear is that he's gonna die when he climaxes because his mother has been telling him that that's something it's in his genes, or it's gonna happen to him too. That just like it happened to his father. So that moment happens, and he's relieved when he's not dead. He's like, I thought I was gonna die, and. So, and then he looks up, and Parker Posey isn't moving anymore, and she becomes a wooden, frozen version of herself.
When I tell you that's
really
one
fucking
of the most
creepy,
frightening, disturbing visuals I've ever seen in a movie. Because the thing is, the doll that they use for Parker Posey's corpse, it's one of those things where it looks like her, but it doesn't look like her at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know how they did it so brilliantly in that way. Whoever does like the art, because these also look like the corpses from his other films. So I think there's a consistent sort of art director that he works with. And I saw that coming. Like, I knew that was going to happen. That was the only way that was going to happen in this movie. I was like, she's going to be dead on top of him because she gets quiet. And I was like, she's dead. She must be dead.
Yeah.
And you see that dead body. He throws her off of him. And
but the thing is that's creepy is that it's not just that she's dead. Is that she turns into this fucking wooden fucking figure. I'm like, damn, bro. Like,
because ultimately
I
dead
would've-
bodies are
yeah.
that, yeah. With like, but it's like
they are, but it's like literal. It's like literal. You know, what is that called when a
rigor
body?
mortis. It's like instant
Rigor mortis. Instant.
It's spooky. Like it's not like,
yeah.
and it's funny, but it's also very uncomfortable because. Thankfully, I haven't been anywhere where I've seen actual people of rigor mortis. I've seen like images of it like through science class and shit like that. But it looks like that. Like the corpses in this film, like you wouldn't have any second guess that this is a dead person that died in a really scary way because you look at they show you a close up of her eye and you see little bits of specks of blood in the eye. So
yeah,
it's either this how can I say this in a clean way? This sure shot that he had killed her because obviously he's never emptied himself in any other fashion.
Right.
It's just like that's what killed her.
Yeah,
it's shocking. It's such a disturbing shot, and it's funny. It's obviously played for laughs, but it's also if you weren't finding this movie funny at all, you're gonna be like, "What the hell did I just watch?" So that leads to the brand showing of his mother coming in. And like nothing, she's disgusted with him because he had sex on her bed, and she gets like some sort of a maid and a butler just to take the dead body and throw it in the garbage somewhere. And this leads to I think a fantastic scene like Patti LuPone because I was like, when I first heard about the movie, I was like, oh, Patti LuPone's in this movie, and Patti LuPone's like no like slouch of an actor, like even if you've never seen a Patti LuPone movie, you know of Patti LuPone. You know what I mean? And she's obviously she's been more recently known because she does a lot of Broadway and she does Broadway, and people will take phones out and she stops the whole play to yell at them. She's like one of those actors.
Oh shit!
That, like, you do not fuck.
And she hates. Yeah.
And I don't blame her. Like,
but where do you know her from? Where do you know her from? That's the thing is, I know her from somewhere. I know her from one thing.
What did you see?
Early when I was a kid, she was in this show. It was a series called. Fuck! What was the name of it? It was with the guy who plays the commish. You know the guy who plays the commish?
Yeah, I know who that
he
guy
was
is.
in.
The guy he was in. He was Vic in that cop show, right?
Right. So that he played the father, and they had a child that had Down syndrome. It was from like the 80s, late 80s.
Are you talking
90s.
about Life Goes On?
Life Goes On, bro.
That wasn't the commish. That was another actor, is it?
Was it really?
Yeah,
I thought it was
the
him
commish
for
is
some
actually
reason.
younger than the guy from Life Goes On. She was the mom in Life Goes On? Whoa.
I think she was, bro. Let me see. Hold on. She was. Yep, she was.
Yeah, okay. Life
It
Goes
was.
On.
It wasn't the commission. It was another guy, but I know the other guy too. But yeah, she was. That's the only place I ever. That's the only place I ever known her from.
Same.
Like, I don't even think I've seen her in movies.
Yeah, I think so.
But
same.
Through my entire life, that's anytime I see her, that's where she's from. So anyway, but she's a great actress. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, does she knock this shit out of the park or what? Because I was wondering when I saw her name and thing, I was like, she's got to be in this movie somewhere, like, because you're going in saying, oh, she's dead, but she's not even in the flashbacks. It's like, it's that younger actress playing, who's also very good. The younger actress who's playing the mother at a younger age. Like, where the hell is Patti LuPone? Like, is he gonna have a hallucination? But can you discuss the situation where the grand Wizard of Oz sequence happens?
Okay, so they have, dude, this part. I think you're gonna have to do this part because so go ahead, you do it.
Okay, so the mother reveals herself to be livid. She's alive. What she did was she paid one of the original women that used to take care of Beau, like one of the women around the house, like a maid or something, or a caretaker.
A maid. Yeah.
She said, listen, she paid her to essentially kill herself to her, that lady's family will never worry about being poor ever again. She did this just to spite Beau, just to have him feel what it's like with his mother not around, because she's that spiteful of a person, which is bizarre. And I'm sure rich people do this all the time. I hope not as extreme in this situation, but she did that just to spite him and see how he would act and how fast he would come to see his mother's dead body, which he didn't, which angers her even more. she reveals that she's basically had cameras everywhere watching that sort of weird scene when he was at the doctor's house and he was able to fast forward and see towards the end of the movie. So that's another sort of weird scene. His therapist this whole time has recording, and I was pissed that nothing happened at therapist. I was waiting for something to happen at therapist, but nothing happens. That pissed me off.
Right.
But I thought that fantastic scene with that final confrontation with his mother where he chokes her, right? And because he just had enough, because at that moment, that was the first time he stands up for himself. Well, but I'm jumping ahead because before that, he goes into the attic, and what does he find in that attic?
A huge penis monster.
Which is his father, right?
Which is his father. And then there's another person in there, right? That's
his brother, his twin brother.
His brother, right?
Because they try to lay that through the film, but I don't think that was very successful, honestly. Because I was
what that made me think of. I thought that was just him seeing himself through his own perspective.
That's what I thought too, right?
Like that she hid like part of him up there. So I was like, that's what I thought through the entire film, you know. But then I'm like, wait.
That might actually be the case too. It actually might be the case.
It could be.
She kept She might kept
his other half.
His other half, like his more braver part. She locked him up there with this giant penis
because he was questioning. He was
right.
Yeah.
So she might have locked. See, this is a weird joke, and Ari Aster might be like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" But she might have just locked up his bravery up into that attic, and she might have locked up his sexual urges in that attic too. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of ways to look at it. She literally says that's his father, though. That big penis monster.
She does.
So that's when it's like a big kind of cosmic joke. And I'll give him credit. That monster looked pretty crazy.
It did. But do you think his father really died? Because what I'm thinking is like that he was just was a one night stand or something.
Like a
so he's
sperm donor. You mean?
Yeah, or sperm
like,
donor, or maybe she just had sex with somebody.
There are women that will sleep with a guy and call them a sperm donor. They necessarily didn't have to go through the sperm donation thing.
They didn't have to go through the process.
Yeah,
but yeah, maybe. And then he's just like, all she remembers of him is like he's just a penis that was inside of me or something. That's it. Right. So that's why he's like this huge, you know.
This is where it's gone
penis.
Completely off the rail because there's only one photo of his father that he has. And the thing is, if you really look at that photo, it's really disturbing because it's like a blurry photo of a guy with a camera. Yeah. But if you look at it closely, there's a light in the where it looks like a person's face is looking right at you. Like if you go back to watch the scene where he look at the photo of his dad and his face is all blurry, you can see a person's face because the head's sideways, but you can see a face looking straight at you from the photo, and that shit gave me the fucking willies when I looked at it. I was like, oh. So I mean, like, yeah, I think that this is basically where he decides to get rid of reality in this movie, and this is basically now we're all in Beau's head because I read somewhere, and I can't confirm what it was, but he said that this movie doesn't take place in this realm, whatever that means. So I'm going to try to find that information somewhere else. So just from I'm not going to come back and record a new fucking episode about this, but I'm like, in my sense, if that's what he's saying, that it's not taking place like in this realm, then okay. Because certainly the last 15 minutes do not take place in any reality that we know. For the last 40 minutes of the movie doesn't take place in this reality. And, you know, that PTSD comes in, and I swear to you, it felt like a reference to the Verhoeven movie, the Starship Troopers, the way that the penis monster puts the
oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I thought.
That's the only
when he
other
sucks
movie
out his brains. Yeah.
The brains getting sucked out. That's the only other movie where Verhoeven is genius. Okay, and that was like genius, that movie. And so I was like, that's what I thought of. So I mean, he freaks out. He chokes his mom. Patti LuPone, 10 out of 10 performance in that little 10 minutes that she has in this film. He says, fuck it, I gotta get out of here. He gets on that boat. I mean, well, besides the PTSD, you know, guy getting killed, he gets on that boat. And at this moment, I was like, you know, maybe he drowned in this part. And he's going through that tunnel, and he's in the afterlife. Because, boy, does it get surreal. If you thought it could get surreal in the beginning, what is this big grand film leading up to? What is this finale?
It's leading up to pretty much a trial between him and his mother, where it's sort of like his mother is sort of just running down the list of all the things he did to her and all the wrongs he did, and then Bo has, and she has an attorney, which is played by Richard Kind, who's like, striking everything he says down. I mean, he's not saying anything, right? Is he saying stuff?
Yeah,
he's saying
talking.
Stuff. Yeah,
he's the one that's basically shit talking him through the whole part.
Right, and then he also has a lawyer who we never really see up close. It's like a long shot,
because
right?
I think it's called 1-800-Lawyer, like some sort of cheap lawyer.
Oh, okay,
on TV.
okay.
That's
right.
like, it's funny because the advertisement's right above him, so he's just like cheap. Go ahead.
And so it's just Bo sort of defending himself through while his mother and the lawyer are just like throwing everything at him. You know what I mean? And there's a huge crowd. So they're like in a stadium, and Bo's in the center, and the center is like it's like a lake in the middle of the stadium, and he's in the boat.
Are we the moviegoers supposed to be part of this audience? You think that we're watching this guy's like life trial?
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Because who is that audience?
Yeah, right. Because shortly before that, like, you know what it reminded me was, what is that Anthony Hopkins Shakespeare film? I only saw parts of it. Titus, and it starts out with an audience, like a modern audience watching. Oh no, it doesn't start with a modern. It ends with a modern audience watching the film that just played out, and that's what I felt with this. And I don't think this is a reference to that. But it was a weird movie because it was like very obviously like an art house. The woman who directed the Lion King play and the Spider-Man Come Out of the Dark, whatever the hell that was, she obviously did that movie.
Julie Taymor, right?
Sorry?
Julie Taymor.
Thank you. Yeah, so she did that, and it's very art housey, very of the period of like this Titus I think it's Andronicus, I'm not sure, and it ends with a Matrix effect on top of it. You got to see that part. But then it ends with a modern audience watching the end of the show. And I'm like, did we just watch sort of a play that happened or something that was like, we weren't aware of it? And that's what I thought about this with him in that trial of the audience watching now his life on the screen. And is this the afterlife? Is this what happens to all of us? And the little sort of small, stupid shit that a child would do, like hide from his mother at the mall. Like, that's a big, bad thing for him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally forgot about that they're showing these things too
on the big big.
So screen, yeah. So they're showing these things, and that's an incident where he's hiding. He purposely left his mother.
Yeah.
When she's in the mall.
Right.
And he's hiding from her, and she's like freaking out looking for him, and he's just like watching her freak out.
And they were like, it's the worst 20 minutes of his mother's life.
Right. That's weird, bro.
And then letting his friends take her panties and stuff like that.
Letting his friends take her panties. What do you think he means by this? What do you think this means to the whole thing?
I think that it's obviously played for laughs. That I think it's that Bo, his whole life has trying to rebel against his mother, obviously.
Okay.
Because she's been so, constrictive around them. And the part where he hid from her, he wanted her to feel what it's like without him. Because she's constantly up his ass, right? And the part where he's giving her underwear is obviously for him to have some sort of power over her. He's giving something of hers to his friends. And it's something that's like dirty. Do you know what I mean? So I think this is and I'm sure this movie can be analyzed way better by way smarter people than myself. But I think that's the case. He's being exposed for the micro transgressions or microaggressions that he's had against his mother, even though she's been, she's been controlling his whole life, right? Yeah, she's been
100 times worse, but she's throwing it on him,
right?
And it's like he can't even defend. Like he can't even have those little moments that like I think he's it's fair that he did those things. You know what I mean? But even that is like he's still getting reprimanded for it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I feel, and then she starts to sort of like starts winning. You know what I mean? Like he starts being overwhelmed by
she's so
these
angry that she breaks the pole that her hands are on. She's gripping it so hard that it breaks. So it's like she's basically she has created this disappointment. You know what I mean? Like she raised him up to be a perfect child. But all she could do is be disappointed because he was always sort of a chicken shit and a pussy his whole life. not realizing that she took those steps that kind of led him into that role. And the fact that she sees those little microaggressions that he's done as a kid, that suddenly that always proves her right, because she sees as an adult he hasn't made anything of himself besides being, you know, a nebbish and chicken shit. Like he wasn't an alpha son, which is weird because if she had two sons, she could have shown the love to the other son because he was basically a copy of BEAU himself. So that's why it becomes some sort of weird sort of idea of a movie. But I think that is the fear, the final fear of being exposed. Do you know what I mean? To your family sometimes, because like I'm sure there's things about us that we don't want our family to know as people, because you want your family to not think lesser of you, because that's basically all you have in life, unless you get married and stuff like that. And I think that's the final sort of insult, final comedic fear of somebody in general, getting found out of who you are and having them be disappointed in you. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, man. Totally. I think it's the final straw for him, but it's just kind of fucked up at the end of the day, because really BEAU never gets he even after all these revelations and all this stuff with his mother and finding out these things, he never really gets he never gets his arc. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of like
he had sex with a woman, and then what does that lead to?
But that's it leads to this other revelation that destroys it. Her dad, and then his mother, revealing the master plan of what she was doing. And so it's like it wasn't even worth it, because it's like, fuck, And so that's the thing too about the character, like Joaquin's character, that I kind of like was a little bit like, that was the one thing that was kind of a weakness for me, was that like his character, he does give a great performance, but he's pretty much playing the same thing throughout the entire film. Yeah, but then it makes sense at the end, because then the way it ends is like no growth. He has no arc. He doesn't overcome these things. Yeah.
The only growth he has is when he chokes her at the end, but then that obviously reverts him back. And it was so funny, because as I thought about this film, and I was on a Howard Stern board, I was thinking about this, like, because obviously, if you've ever listened to Howard Stern, you listen to him actually longer than I have, to current dates, he obviously has a mother issue, right? And I was thinking about one of his pilots for Fox. He had a talk show, and you got to look this clip up, when Howard was first trying to get a tattoo. And he's sitting there with a tattoo artist looking at his arm and picking out art to pick. And his mother's like, "You're not going to get that tattoo. Your skin is my skin." And if you look at Howard Stern's face, because Howard Stern is one of those sort of like, back then in the 90s and stuff, he's like, he just rolled over everyone. Like, there was nobody better than him. Right. You can't beat him at anything. Yeah. If you see his face in that shot, is the perfect encapsulation of this movie, because he reverts to a child and he looks scared and he's like, oh man, like he's bummed out. Because he wants to get a tattoo. Eventually he did end up getting a tattoo years later. But he was like, you could see his mother like owns his life, and he takes like therapy 3 times a week, right? So that's what he talks about. So I'm sure he's like, that's a whole fucking other thing. So like, that's a real life sort of version of what this film. It's not as bad, because Howard Stern is obviously very successful, but that's what I thought of when I saw this movie for some reason, like that, because that is like the realest real of I've ever seen. I'm sure there's like reality TV shows that deal with moms and sons, or even fathers and daughters, or fathers and sons, but you can never escape not disappointing your parents in one way or another. And I think that's what this film is. And I think it's an not an overanalyzed, but it's a over the top look at someone who was doomed from the beginning, because obviously his boat capsized and he's dead. He's done. He drowns at the end of the film, which I felt bad for him, because he never had a chance. And I agree 100% that you said that he really had no change in him. He's basically like a silent character in a film, like Charlie Chaplin in his movie. You know what I mean? Like, everything's happening to him. He's very a reactionary character. He's not doing any actions that's getting him, further in the storyline. Everything is happening to him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, like when I first saw the film, I kind of took that as a negative of like, his performance. I was like, well, he did a great performance while he was while he was feeling scared and having anxiety and reacting to everything, but he never really did change. But then I'm like, well, that's the whole point of the movie. So it's like, he actually did do a great performance. And I'm kind of like thinking that's really not a negative. That's the whole main point of the movie. So it's like, it works in that sense. And then so at the end the boat capsizes and he dies, and then I'm assuming he dies in, I don't know, does he die in real life? Is he already dead at this point?
Yeah, that's the thing about it. It's just like you're never gonna get that real answer. I don't know. I don't think Ari Aster has that answer. I think that the film has strayed into a different territory by the finale. That it's literal and analytical at the same time. So
maybe he ends up killing him. Maybe he ends up killing himself or something.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Who knows?
You never know. But I think honestly, I think it was. I think it's a strong film that holds up with the other films in its own unique way. What did you think about as you kind of spoke about the film? Like, did anything clear up for you? Did you think it's a little worse off or a little bit better in your mind?
No, I think it's probably better that we spoke about it, because again, I enjoyed this movie. I to a point where I loved it. You know, I just had issues with like a little bit of the middle section of it, and also like it's a thing that also is really annoying me recently is length in movies.
Oh yeah.
It's annoying the shit out of me. It used to be a thing that was like rarity, or it would just be a movie that it needed to be that long. It was, usually like these very important, like Oscar-worthy films that were like 3 hours. But now every film is 3 hours, bro. Yeah. But this, I feel like this movie earns it because there's so much in there to take. Even if just looking at it like from a filmmaking perspective, like you're always enjoying the way the film is going, even technically, the way he's shooting stuff, the way the editing is going. So it's like there's stuff to take in there, even if you don't like the story. There's like that's the great thing about the way Ari Aster makes films. It's like you're gonna get something out of it. But as far as like a whole, like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I to a point where I love it. Like it's definitely one of my favorite films that I've watched this year.
Especially for this year, I think so. And it does say something about a long film for the fact that we saw it in 2 parts and it still felt long. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, like, do you remember just before we go up to the end? Do you remember the first like film that you've seen that was like super long and you were like, "What the hell am I doing watching this?" You know what I mean? Like, was there any film where you realized, "Oh my god, this movie could have been way better if it was cut by like half an hour or something like
that"? Let me see. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's been a lot of movies.
Yeah, because I know, like, one of the first times that happened to me was Gangs in New York. But I think it's because I had to piss during that.
That's my least favorite Scorsese film.
I know. I had to piss during, like, when everything hit the fan when the riots happened, which basically I think is the most exciting part of the film. I had to piss in that part. And I had to run out of the theater. But I think the first one where it was like really like long was, I just left my mind. But certainly those, I see what you're saying with long films and stuff like that. I used to be like, oh man, I would love to see a long film. But nowadays you're like, they really put a lot of shit in this movie that isn't necessary. Like, does Avengers have to be 3 hours long? Does this movie have to be 3 hours long?
It's now they're just doing it because they think it puts like an importance on the film. Before movies used to be that long because the filmmaker was like, this is how long the film has to be to tell the proper story. You know what I mean? And sometimes they were right. Like a movie like The Godfather, Lord of the Rings, The Godfather. Those films should be that length, especially not the direct extended cuts, bro. I can't watch the extended cuts. But like the actual versions, they were 3 hours.
Movie, yeah, enough stuff happens in that movie where it makes sense, where it's 3 hours long or something like that.
Yeah, because it's epic and it's simple and it's just telling you story, and there's so much story to be told. But these films nowadays, I sound like a fucking old codger, but they just make the films long just to be long, because they're like, and they let these directors just go, and I'm like, and a lot of these directors, this is what I was thinking today, the films that they became famous for or they became known for, they were always their like first or second films where they didn't have that luxury to do 3-hour films. So like people were on top of them. Like producers was like, cut this down. This needs to be 2 hours. Yeah. And they're probably their best films.
And that was the economics of cinema then, because you could only put films in theaters and stuff. I was on Twitter today and I saw that there was a movie Wes Craven directed called Red Eye. I never saw it. I saw parts of it with Cillian Murphy.
I saw it.
I forget the... They said that movie was only 1 hour and 16 minutes long. I said, what?
Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. And the fact that people love that movie?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. And it was like, it's perfect because the movie, it takes place on a plane almost the entire movie. So it's like, this movie can't be 2 hours, bro. It has to be this. Part of it, they leave the plane near the end, but it's like, how much can you have in a plane? So, the suspense is the plane. So it's like, that's a perfect length, and it's like, I just want movies to get back to that. I want directors to be like.
I think it's a thing where people also have this cheapness in them, where they're like, I paid and it's the movie theater's fault too. I had to pay $25 to see a movie. It's only 1.5 hours long. I want an experience. I want to sit there. You know what I mean? That's what I think.
I guess.
In the audience I remember when I went to go see Neon Demon with my friend in Times Square. Listen. If you ever visit New York City, don't see a goddamn movie. There's no basically movie theaters are leaving New York City anyway. But in Times Square, we went to a Times Square theater, an AMC in there, I think it was. My friend, I had a free ticket to go see this movie. My friend ended up paying $22 for this movie, and I was like, $22 in the middle of the day, and the movie wasn't even good, bro. And I like Nicholas Winding Refn, and that movie, I wouldn't pay $3 to see that movie again. So I mean, like, it's the economy, it's the time. Like, people think that, people enjoy 3-hour movies. It'll be fine if it's an hour and a half and you get a director's cut on Blu-ray or something. I think you know what I mean? People care about the quality of the movie they're watching. Absolutely. They don't care if it's an hour and a half. If they have a great time and they enjoy the movie, that's all they care about. They're like, I got my money's worth. It doesn't have to be length. I mean, length is such a technical thing, and it's like that has nothing to do with the story or emotion. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. We'll sit through our 3 hours even Oppenheimer, and we'll be fine.
Listen, I'll watch that. I'll watch Avatar. Like Avatar was like 3 hours and 15 minutes. I was like, what the fuck? But that's a whole different kind of movie. That's an experience. Yeah. So it's like, okay, this I see it. But come on, a normal movie, bro. Like let's go, man.
Whew, I think that's
2 hours and 17 minutes. Sorry, 2 hours and 17 minutes used to be long. Oh, yeah. Like I remember when James Cameron was known for making long movies. Aliens and T2 are 2 hours and 17 minutes. That was at that time.
I remember Waterworld feeling long when I saw that as a kid.
It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. But like at that time, they were like, "You're pushing it, man. You're pushing it because you're not going to get enough seats, enough showings."
Little did they know, right? I think that's
they still made money, those movies.
Oh, yeah. I think that's our old man rant for this episode. What rating would you give this film, BEAU is Afraid, 1 out of 10?
I'd give this movie. I give it an 8.
Yeah. I also would give it. I would give it a strong 8. But I might give it a 8.5 because in discussion with this, I did see that it dragged in some places, and there was some weird sort of transition story-wise. But I still think this Ari Aster, if this is his worst, then there's no issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, this guy is brilliant. So I think for me, it's an 8.5 out of 10. Jizzing in your girl and killing her. That's what I think it is. So, so Deckard, do you have any final words? Do you have the final word?
The final word. I mean, I'm waiting for his next film. That's pretty much.
Absolutely.
That's whatever he's doing next, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'm and hopefully he can make it sooner than later. Because we're in need of some really good movies.
Quality film, believe us.
Quality films, and I kind of wish I did see this in theaters.
Same.
And I missed when you were talking about Hereditary. I did miss that in theaters.
Yeah.
I felt like that movie is meant to be in theaters because in the theaters, like those shots when like they're seeing stuff that's like in the shadows that you can barely
absolutely.
see. That's really made for the theater, because in the theater you can actually really make it out. Sometimes it's harder to make it out, like when you're watching it on a television.
Yeah, it was darker with the woman with the shadow mom in it.
Yeah.
It was like, but of course, in my experience, when they turned on the light at the end, they fucked it up. But whatever. But I agree that a lot of certain directors need to have their films seen in theaters, and I'm sure when Scorsese, when Killer on the Flower Moon, that's gonna be a fucking beautiful film on cinema. So we have a lot to look forward to, because I think, especially with him, Luca Guadagnino, and then we also have obviously Denis Villeneuve. It looks hopeful, at least for artistic directors and their type of films, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they keep making, like for Denis, like I don't know what he's doing after Dune.
I heard there was going to be a Dune 3. I was like, I thought Dune's over with Dune 2. Because I know they made a bunch of books.
I think
come on, just give me Dune 2.
I think they're going to do a series. I think they're going to do a series that is going to continue the story.
Daughters of the Sacred or something like that.
But I think this is the last one. I hope. I just want him to like do this. And
that's what I heard. But I was like, I hope this is the last one.
I just don't. I don't want him to keep making Dune movies.
I agree.
He's the type of director that he needs to make different type of movies every time, like different genres and stuff.
So, but at least it looks positive, at least for these directors, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That they're still around, and we can find new ones, and hopefully there's some around the corner. But with that,
let me ask you a question.
Sure, go ahead.
What's a new director right now that's got your eye, and it's like, oh, he can be he has the potential to be like a new Ari Aster or a new whatever.
Do you know what? I do not.
Anybody?
Is there somebody for you that does that?
I'm trying to think. Wait, I think I had somebody, but I forgot right now. Hold on. Somebody who's just made one film.
Was it a film that came out last year or this year or something like that?
Something like that. I just can't remember right now.
We'll have it for the next episode. We'll find the director that we hope are good for next year. Because I like when I speak about Guadagnino and those are the three guys that I look forward to. There's nobody yet that I've seen besides them, because they're fairly new, I guess, even though they've been around for 20 years or so. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully, I like.
Oh, you know who?
But
that's kind of, he's not really that. Lee Winnell. I mean, he's been around
definitely
for a while
showed potential with Upgrade and The Invisible Man, right?
Invisible Man.
Two films, yeah. Oh, also, I think hit or miss wise, Greg, not Greg, is it Greg? The guy who did The Northman and
oh yes.
Robert Eggers. I think he has potential. I think he's hit or miss, but he's on the cusp of becoming like these directors that we just spoke about.
He is. I mean, I was impressed with The Northman. Actually,
I thought it was good. I thought it was a story that I saw already in Conan. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, hey, what is he going to do differently?
But he didn't really stray too much from like that, but he did it in an interesting way. I felt, and it was very, very like, it was very like guttural and like just like there was a lot of yelling in it, but it's like he did it in a different way. You know what I mean? It told the same story, but in a different way, which I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think there are people that we can look forward to. I'm sure the more we think about it and the more that they give artistic directors chances, then there's something that's positive to look forward to. Anyway, so I think thank you all for listening to this episode. I think these are more analytical episodes of the Horror Deconstruct, which I find much more interesting. And I'm glad that we're able to sit there and talk to you guys, listening to us. So please let us know with a like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be here next time. So hopefully, more future episodes, we'll have Deckard come in and give us more of an analytical feel to the show. That's it. Final word, Deckard? One word? What do you got to say?
Peace.
Peace.